Hello, friends, and welcome. Today, we are going to blame our teammates. That's right. They lose us games, they cause us MMR. However, they don't have to hold you back into the trench forever. You can get past them. If you've watched the channel, you know that I personally focus on myself. I tell you all to do the same, right? Improve your own gameplay, and then the MMR will follow. I don't want that to seem, though, like I just dismiss the idea that teammates will cause problems and lose you games. But I think it just doesn't matter in the end, right? So that's what we're going to talk to you today. Because every time I make one of these kind of videos, like the get out of the trench video, I get comments like these, some polite, some not so polite. But it all comes down to the fact that people just don't think it's true, that matchmaking and teammates will always hold you back more than your own personal skill. Now, I don't really mind. It is everyone's, free to their own opinion. However, I do think it's a little funny because I think we're actually on the same page. Whether you blame your teammates or not, I think it all converges, and that when you want to improve, you have to do the same thing. So I'm going to mathematically prove that today so that there can be no doubt about the best way to gain MMR. Obviously, you're still entitled to your own opinion. So we have our true MMR. There's no way to measure this. It's just whatever you kind of feel, because you play the most games of Dota on your own account. You better. So you have the best idea of how good or bad you are at the game. Like I said, no direct measurement though. So there's only playing ranked games in Dota, which doesn't necessarily account for these other factors. Things like bad teammates. That's what we're here for, right? They are causing us some extra losses. There's also ally griefers, right? Which is a little worse than just being a bad teammate. You are intentionally losing games, and that sucks. Now, something we don't really talk about much, there could just be good enemies where they honestly outplay. I'm just kidding, guys. They're Smurfs. Smurfs cause you extra losses as well, leading you to have a rank that doesn't match up to your true MMR. But since we're going to blame teammates, I think we also need to be honest with ourselves and recognize that there are things that can work out in our favor, such as Smurfs being on our team or having good teammates, people who just play well. Bad enemies, right, where they're the just worst players, and sometimes they're just straight up griefers. They just give up right away. All of these are factors that can affect your MMR, and it just kind of comes down to which is the bigger factor, right? So when you are one player out of 10, some of these factors are more or less in your favor. So you might have good teammates, right? I think this goes in your favor because you are a good player, right? So 1 out of 5, you've already got a good player on your team. That means you're more likely to have more good teammates and less bad teammates because we aren't bad at Dota, right? Whereas they have a better chance at having 5 bad players. That's more than we can have because I'm a good player. We can at most have 4 bad players. There's also griefing. You're not a griefer, you're not a griefer, right? And that means the enemy team should always have a higher chance at being griefed than your team because you're not a griefer. Now, you're also not a Smurf, right? So the enemy team could have more Smurfs than your team. So that works out against us because we're not Smurfing, we're an honest player. So that leaves 4 empty slots on our team for potential Smurfs. So our team could have less Smurfs than their team. Good enemies, unfortunately, could also work against us, right? Where if we maybe, don't play so hot one game, then at best we can have 4 good teammates on our team, whereas everyone on the enemy team could be playing well. So it's up to you which of these factors you think are more or less important, but that's kind of the split of it, in my opinion. I think more of these factors are in our favor so long as we play well. With all that in mind, we can kind of break this down into 2 major factors. There's our true MMR, our individual skill, and then there's all these matchmaking factors. And it comes down to what you believe is the bigger factor. So, like I've said, I think my individual skill will be the deciding component for my ranked MMR. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to say, what if this is the bigger factor, right? This is what decides our MMR. How do we still gain MMR in this case? Let's do a thought exercise now based on our newly established equation. Let's say you're an Archon player trying to get to Legend. Now, reality is you're actually already a Legend player. That's your true MMR. But this matchmaking stuff, it's holding you back. So let's go ahead and ignore the true MMR aspect because you're already a Legend player. So how do we deal with all this? please leave a comment now telling me what we do. How do we gain MMR? You might be saying, Zach, that's why I tune into this video. You tell me how to gain MMR. All right. How do we gain MMR? How do we deal with this? I don't know. I don't have an answer for you all because most of this is uncontrollable. There's not really anything you can do about any of this because it's matchmaking. I have no say in any of this. Now, I don't think that's fully true. There are things like, let's say Smurfs, okay? Smurfs aren't auto wins. So if a Smurf is on your team, you still got to help them have a good game. And then you got to, like, you know, keep them from tilting and becoming a griefer and just giving up on the game. In the same way you try to stop the enemy Smurfs, turn them into tilters, right? I would call that individual skill, though, and not really a matchmaking factor. Identifying the good and bad players in a game, maybe it's so far as griefers and Smurfs, but they are still different levels of good or bad players, and learning how to play and adapt, I would call that all individual skill, and we're not talking about that. We're only talking about how to just not get any of this in our game, I guess. And I don't have an answer because I think it's all uncontrollable. But let's put that on the shelf for now. And let's say it is controllable. I go, I get a job at Valve. First, I have to go to college and get a degree and everything and get, you know, experience. But I get a job at Valve and I go to Gabe and I tell him, put me on the Dota 2 matchmaking team. You actually don't have to ask. You simply put yourself on there because that's how their system works. So now we're in charge of matchmaking. And we're going to go heavy-handed. We're just going to ban Smurfs. All Smurfs, gone. Returning players who used to be good and just haven't played in a while, start a new account, banned. I don't care. No Smurfs. So they're gone. Next, griefers. Heavy-handed. Just throwing out the bans, right? I don't care. I don't care if you're just having a bad game. You're banned. You're gone. No more griefers. So here we are. We got rid of Smurfs and we got rid of griefers. I would like to say I'm down for this, actually. As if somehow any of this was possible and enforceable. I don't know how you prevent any Smurfs or any griefing ever, but let's say it's possible. I would be down for this, right? Match quality would definitely go up, I would say. Does that mean our MMR goes up? I don't quite think so. But I would be down for less account buyers, Smurfs, all of that. You know, just get honest, good players, right? And that's kind of the next thing. We're going to get rid of bad teammates. So, have a bad game, banned. You're out. Have a new role, banned. Trying to learn stuff, banned. I don't care. Having a bad day, banned. No cares whatsoever. New players, especially banned. Anyone trying to have fun, account instantly deleted. All bad teammates are gone. Only good teammates and only good enemies, right? We can't just remove the bad players from our team. So, from here, again, arguably, this could be great for match quality. Keeping in mind that, you know, pros think other pros are atrocious at the game and there's no such thing, right? They're not even satisfied with their teammates. Forget all that. Somehow, we all have good teammates and good enemies in every single game. But, Syndrome had a point. When everyone's good, no one's good. So, we've now removed all matchmaking factors. Great, we did it. All of them are gone, and that means we're now a legend player. Congratulations, a round of applause. But keep in mind, these were matchmaking changes we made. That's going to affect the entire player base. That means it's not just you, but everyone is going to shift up in their rank and MMR. So Herald players, right? The worst Dota 2 players, the new players, all of that. Those that weren't banned shifted up to Guardian. Old poop-colored Guardian is now the worst rank in Dota 2. On the other end, the Immortals, nah, who cares about them anymore? We got a new rank based on broken items, right? We're going to watch them play at TI, the best players. They're going to complain about the people in the rank. They're going to say the Immortals, the worst players they've ever seen, garbage, delete your accounts, right? All of it is just going to shift. You, in Archon, trying to get past all these other garbage Archon players, trying to make your way to the good Legend players, who, that's where real Dota gets played, right? No one does any weird stuff anymore in Legend. That's where all the good Dota 2 players are, right? Yeah. All of them, they shifted over. All those Archon players, they're in Legend with you. All the Legend players you want to play with, they're all an Ancient now. So now you're a Legend player and you want to be an Ancient player. But we already fixed matchmaking, so there's nothing to do here. That's right, baby, we're back. It's all about us again. We have to improve our own individual ability to gain MMR. But, unfortunately, this was all an elaborate theoretical situation. We never joined the Valve matchmaking team, so all of this remains uncontrollable to the average player. But if you want some ideas on how to control some of this, I have a video called Motivators and Demotivators on how to work with your team. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, If this is uncontrollable, but you still want MMR, but you believe it's the major factor, you're at a bit of an impasse, right? Because you're just screaming into the void. If this is the only deciding factor, there's nothing you can do about it. You'll always be stuck at whatever rank you're at. But if we recognize that your individual skill is still a factor as well, even if it's a smaller factor, it's at least a controllable factor. And we can work to improve this to then see that reflected in our ranked MMR. Now, if you think matchmaking is rigged, that's another different issue. Also a video I have if you want to check that out. But I also think that's an uncontrollable factor, matchmaking being rigged, which still brings us back to the fact that if you want MMR, but you think teammates are to blame and you think matchmaking's rigged, doesn't make sense unless you still come back to your own MMR. Now, I don't want it to seem like I'm too harsh on people who blame matchmaking, blame their teammates. Let me tell you, other people might have told you you're too egocentric, that you're always looking for excuses. This is not the case, okay? You don't have enough ego. You don't believe in yourself enough, but I do. I know you can do it, okay? They may have Smurfs on the enemy team, but you're a Smurf. You should be an immortal, man. So you just have to carry your bad teammates enough. You just got to be that good, and I know you can do it. I believe in you. The rest of this channel, all dedicated to that stuff. If you're a support player, you can check it out there. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. I believe in you. Do your best out there. It all comes back to this, baby. Okay, bye.